Memorial Day, barbecues, swimming pools, and the unofficial start of summer. But whatever happened to the recovery summer?
We're spending more now this summer. I'm calling this the summer of recovery. This summer, you're going to see even more ripple effect out there. The pace on the ball is moving into its highest gear here.
Remember that? The White House predicting up to 500,000 jobs would be created each month. That was back in 2010 when we were still digging out from the recession. But guess what? Yeah, we're still digging. Welcome, everyone. I'm Stuart Varney in for Neil Cavuto. This is your world. So, 4 years later, and we're still close to 0% growth. Still nowhere near creating 500,000 jobs a month. In fact, nearly 10 million people are still out of work. And the search for the recovery summer goes on. To CKE restaurant CEO Andy Puzder on what's holding employers back. All right, Andy, put your finger on it. What's the single biggest reason why guys like you, employers, are not hiring?
Well, I think it's very difficult to come up with business models that justify the investment you need to make to create jobs when the government keeps increasing the expenses associated with running a business. You increase taxes, you reduce after-tax profits. You increase health care costs with Obamacare. You increase labor costs. You increase fuel costs with the war on carbon fuels. And you increase, now they want to increase labor with minimum wage. On top of that, you've got this almost unnavigable regulatory maze that's been created over the past 6 years. And it's very hard to create those business models that justify investing to create more jobs.
What will you do if the push for a $15 minimum wage, and we saw this with the McDonald's demonstrations last week, what will you do if that's anywhere near successful, that the minimum wage goes maybe even to $10 an hour?
I think you'll see a lot of restaurants closing. I don't think that restaurants can operate profitable if they're paying a $15 an hour minimum wage. So I think you would see a devastating impact to the country. In fact, even the $10 minimum wage increase that President Obama's talking about, the CBO said that would destroy 500,000 jobs. So the impact here would be much greater than even what the president's proposing.
But you know, the president says he's not anti-business. He simply wants the rich to pay a little more. He wants to open up opportunity in our society. And he's telling wealthier people, you're not doing too badly. Spread it around a little. Is that an anti-business attitude?
Well, I think basically everything this administration has been anti-business. As I said, all the efforts they've made to increase the expenses of running a business. Then on the demand, that's the supply side. That's kind of the Art Laffer approach to business. If you look at the Keynes side, the Keynesian economics that the president seems to like, the demand side, when you increase people's taxes, you decrease the amount of money they have to spend. When you increase fuel costs, you decrease the amount of money they have to spend. So you've got a president who's attacking the demand side, which is business. He's attacking the supply side, which is consumer spending. And then he's saying, why isn't there economic growth? Why aren't you creating jobs? Well, you can't attack supply and demand and expect people to grow. It's just not going to happen. And that's the situation that he's put us in.
You run Carl's Jr. restaurants. You run Hardee's.
Yes.
Surely you've got clout. You're a major employer. Don't you have a voice in Washington?
I go to Washington and meet with politicians from both sides of the aisle to try and get what I'll call rational business policies, things that don't hurt employees, that actually create jobs, which would help the middle class, the lower class, and young people in this country. And you'd think we'd be able to make some progress, but I think it's an election year. I don't think the president's a bad guy. I'm not here to criticize President Obama, but he does not have the experience or the background to understand what it takes to create jobs. And I think he interprets actions by businesses as negative for people when they're really very positive. We're just trying to create jobs and opportunities, particularly for young people.
Andy, we'll leave it at that, and we thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Stuart. My pleasure.